Hello. Hello, everybody. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever and whenever you may be listening, or now, actually, wherever you may be watching. Look at that, eh? Lit flash. Thank you so much for joining us. This is Chain Wrestling Live with Mags and Sai via Radio Techers. I am the clueless and quite nervous Sai because I've got no idea how any of this bloody works. But with me, as always, to hold my hand through this process is the Philip Schofield to my Sarah Green. It's a Going Live reference, kids. It was an old TV show back in the day. Look it up if you don't get it. It's actually quite funny if you think about it, all right? The Burnley bad boy to my Gloucester gut guy. A podcaster that has actually had loads of live internet experience. Just don't tell Mrs. Mags about that hidden webcam because she'll go spare. The podfather himself, Mr. Mags. How are we doing, sir?
Wow, I did not think you would use the first episode of Chain Wrestling Live to out me to Mrs. Mags. Brilliant. Yeah, I'm doing really
this
well.
Nonsense.
She can't stand wrestling. No, I'm excited for this this new venture we're going on. So I'm really nervy, but genuinely excited. I think we're going to have a great time here on Chain Wrestling. We've already got our first comment in the chat. Our good friend Dan Griffin. Chain Wrestling Live, baby, absolutely. And if you want to join in on the fun, you can easily dive in the chat, send us your messages. We'll get them read out on air, live in the show. And for people who have never watched, no one's ever watched it, but for people who've never listened to an episode of Chain Wrestling, I'll give a quick kind of synopsis of what the show's about. So me and Sa, we take to Twitter, we pitch a match for the Twitter followers to vote on. Then we will watch that match and rate it and review it, and then we will then pitch two more matches which have some sort of tenuous link to the match that we've just watched, therefore continuing that chain. We have plenty of episodes in the archives, so you can go on to the Visionaries Global Media podcast feed and you can start from the very first episode. But essentially, this is a new beginning for us, and we went all guns blazing with our two choices for this week, didn't we, sir?
We did. And for the first time in, 3 or 4 weeks, I lost, Mags. I lost the poll.
It was 5 weeks.
5 weeks.
It was 5 weeks.
5 weeks. That's the biggest winning streak I've had, I think. But you're still ahead. You're still, I think, 18-14 or 18-15 ahead or something. But I'm catching up, Magsy. I'm catching up. Yeah, our wrestling topic for today, as you can probably see by the wonderful background surrounding us, if I'm pointing in the right direction, my arms go the wrong way when I'm doing this, weirdly. We are looking at Stone Cold Steve Austin versus The Rock from WrestleMania 17 for the WWE Championship. A fantastic main event. Probably the best WrestleMania of all time, or arguably at least. There's a few other people who suggest other ones, but this is one of my favorites. So I'm really looking forward to getting to that later in the show.
Absolutely.
Before we get any further, however, there is something I want to quickly touch upon. There was some quite sad news a few hours ago, as me and Magsy now coming on to record, the passing of Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff, who was part of the very first WrestleMania main event. Hugely integral and important, I believe, in being the bad guy foil to Hulk Hogan's Superman good guy gimmick way back in the day when it was all starting in the early 80s. And a fantastic talent and wonderfully gifted. Brilliant matches in WCW when he headed there as well. He'd been ill for a little while, but sadly today, the wrestling world, we've lost Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff. So condolences to his friends and family and so on. And thank you so much for all the many years of entertainment you gave us. Magsy, any Paul Orndorff memories at all, mate?
Yeah, he was quite pivotal in for my very early youth watching wrestling, and it's a big loss. Like you said, he was the perfect foil for the huge baby face of Hulk Hogan. So for him to pass away is a massive loss to the wrestling world. I remember his he's I think it was his last time he was on WWE programming when he was came out and he was introduced and he just hammed it up in a way that only Paul Orndorff could. It's a very, very sad moment, and our wishes go out to all his friends and family.
Yeah, without doubt. If anyone wants to go back and have a look at some old Orndorff stuff, jump on WWE Network, YouTube, or whatever. Early 90s WCW is fantastic. His matches with Cactus Jack back there are worth looking at. Or the stuff with Hogan way back in 84, 85, 86, that kind of era. And look out for his pile driver finisher. Absolutely superb. Yeah, yes. May you rest in peace, Mr. Orndorff, sir.
So before we get to the next topic, sir, let's quickly run through some of these comments. I've got a lot of love in the chat so far.
Okay.
Brian Kinsella, aka Clarvett from the Ricky and Clive Wrestling Show, says the beard's not back in enough since last week. Then no,
it's not.
We both look like middle-aged babies.
Yeah, it was a big error. It was a big mistake. And one I deeply regretted the moment it happened.
The Matt Attack, our good friend and Radio Techers cohort, Matt Willis, with the Austin chant of what, and then somebody who may be very familiar to Si here. I see Mags has more belts than Dad. Is that because Mags' choices always win? Do you know they don't? Si was on a 5-pick win streak, but I have broke that for the first episode of Chain Wrestling Live. And then Matt has come back with a couple more. It is the best WrestleMania of all time. Si is right. I'm sure I've heard Matt on many occasions say that WrestleMania 19 is the best WrestleMania of all time. So he may have changed his tune there. And again, Matt reiterates what we say. Rest in peace, Mr. Wonderful. Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely so. So Magsy, how's your week been, my friend? What you been up to? Anything good?
Yeah, been busy prepping for the debut of Radio Techers. We started on Saturday night with the 5 round, making its debut, and then yesterday we had the pain and the pleasure of looking back at England versus Italy for a recap. So that was cool, but also sad. But yeah, it's been hectic getting prepared for this show, trying to lead a horse to water and then also trying to make him drink. I mean, again, guys, this is somebody who thinks a phone connected to a wall is a technological advancement. So actually getting him to be live is the greatest moment of my life.
I'll tell you what, at that time, connecting the phone to the wall made perfect sense. You take it out of context every single week, okay? I went for a meal out, Magsy, on Friday. It was my son's 18th. It was really nice. My in-laws, my father-in-law took us all for a bite to eat. It was quite lovely. We went to a place that I'd never. Well, obviously it's Gloucester, so I know whereabouts roughly it is, but the name didn't ring a bell. And locked down for a good year and a half, and I think I eat out a lot anyway. So it was quite a new thing for me. When I arrived, I was like, I recognise this. What is this? And it was a place down in Gloucester Docks, which has been refurbished, rebuilt, or however they word it now. They sort of it was all just derelict warehouses and a mess in certain areas for quite a while. However, in the middle of this derelict warehouses and mess and car parks and just an absolute state of Gloucester, was a fantastic old school pub called the Waterfront that I used to go to a great deal when I was younger. Underage, quite naughtily. Mum, if you're watching, I'm sorry, bet you know about it by now, don't you? And it was fun. Some of my best years growing up were spent in this pub watching live bands, and it was a proper sawdust on the floor biker pub and proper dingy, horrible, crappy little place. This is what this restaurant is now. It's been converted into this restaurant. Wow. So I walk in and I'm sat there and I'm looking around and I'm thinking, this kind of feels familiar, but it's not. It was like deja vu. Like I've been there before, but it was all different. And in the end, I'm going for a little bit of a walk with my middle daughter, and sort of tottering around, and I'm looking and thinking, okay, the core box used to be over there. That used to be the door for the toilets, and it was fantastic. It was fantastic being back in this building that I spent so much time in when I was, I don't know, 15, 16, up to maybe 20, 21 potentially. My sister used to come in there as well, and all my friends from football used to pile in there most Saturdays. It was fantastic. But it reminded me of one particular story, which I now makes me laugh, but at the time it was terrifying. Do you remember the old school phone boxes that used to it'd be a box on the wall, and you put your 10p in or 20p or whatever it was, but you dial your number, it would ring and ring, and you'd wait for the other person to answer before you put the money in.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. Otherwise, it wouldn't. If you put it in before, and it would just drop through.
Yeah.
Again, kids, look it up, Google it. If these things did exist, we didn't all carry mini computers in our pocket back in the day. Exactly. I was under very, very strict instructions from my mum to stop going to this pub. I'm underage, and she wasn't worried about me. She was worried about this gentleman's. There's my mum. Hi, mum.
Hello, Mrs. Powell.
She kept kicking my ass because she was saying that this guy will lose his license. But, I'm a young kid. I don't care. My mum was 100% right, but I'm a young kid. I don't care. I'm thinking I'm going to this pub. So I told her I'm going around my mate's house. My mate said he was going around our house to his parents, the standard, back and forth. And we went off to this boozer. And it got to a certain point in the night when I'm thinking, right, I'm not going to go home now. So I need to ring my mum and say, Mum, I'm staying out tonight. So I got the 10p, went to the call box, waited for a bit of a quiet moment because that was a noisy pub. Because, again, there's no call box around there. It's a load of abandoned warehouses. Rang my parents' phone number, ring. My mum answered, dropped the 10p in, and it went straight through the machine. And I could hear my mum going, hello. And I'm dropping this 10p through the machine, and it keeps coming out, and I'm panicking, but it's because I got no more change. And then the phone goes dead, and I'm like, oh. And then I'm guessing she must have done 1471 or return call or something like that. My heart sinks because I hear the bar phone ring. And it's my mum, and the landlord answers the phone. Hello, Waterfront. And my mum, basically the landlord is like, sorry, your mum's on the phone. So that was embarrassing enough as it was, getting a phone call from my mum at the bar. And the next thing was I picked the phone, and my mum's going, I thought I told you not to go to that pub. And I couldn't deny anything because the guy answered the phone literally, hello, Waterfront. So yeah, that was not a pleasant moment for me when I returned home that day. I'll tell you that, Magsy.
Wow. And Mrs. Powell in the chat has started off quite a little conversation going. So Anya said, hi, Nan, with your mum, then replying, and even a heart to me. So, yeah, I really do appreciate that. And then Andy from Bang Bang Podcast, I'm assuming it's Andy, maybe Steve. I would guess it's not due to how polite he is, but he's also saying hi to Mrs. Powell as well. But yeah, glad you are all having fun in the chat, laughing at Simon's misfortune, much like I get to do every single week.
It tends to be a running theme of the show, whether something's happened to me recently or recovering a former topic, and you get to sit there and just laugh at my stupidity, Max. So, shall we power through then and get to our non-wrestling topic of the week?
Let's do so, sir.
Okay, so this week, Mags and I had the thought of entertainment shows, I guess, but shows that you attend live. So whether that would be, paying to go to the cinema, paying to go to a concert or a festival, paying to go to a football match, football away days. There's always good stories with these. Anything like that, concerts, whatever, any form of entertainment that you've paid for to go along and watch. And we wanted stories that were good, were bad, whatever you had for us, really. Mm-hmm. And we had, as always, a fantastic amount of response, didn't we, Magsy? I mean, I can't thank the listeners or watchers, I guess now. Would you call it? I don't really know, but I can't thank our listeners, viewers. There we go, better than watchers. I can't thank people enough.
Yeah, we are blown away every single week with the amount of feedback and response that we get. It's really heartwarming that you've taken this little project of ours to your hearts, and you really made the show 10 times better than what it was originally. So yeah, we appreciate it.
Yeah, definitely. I'll just go through them roughly in the order they arrived into us. So we'll start with our good buddy Chris at MillwallChris1 on Twitter. He said, and it's a two-parter because I had to ask for more information. The first tweet we had was, I once almost shit myself at Wembley whilst watching an American football game after consuming a ton of mints. So I asked the question as to what happened, and basically he was trying to force his way past the bloke in the cubicle as he was coming out, and he thinks he was on the toilet before the other guy even left the cubicle. So it was obviously quite the pressing emergency, Maxie.
Oh, wow! I mean, what mints was he eating that caused him to need to shit so quickly?
Well, he's just put mints. I assumed that was like, polos or 4X or Trebor. But thinking about it, if you got a jippy tummy, what if it's mince as in mince meat? What if it's like he's just sat there eating a bag of raw mince, and all of a sudden that would have that effect, surely.
That's horrific.
Our good buddy Stevo at Total Stevo on Twitter. He says the only terrible concert he can think of, he had a bad experience watching Killswitch, which is a band that Steve-O and I both really enjoy. He says that he dislocated his knee in the mosh pit when they were performing at Exeter Lemon Grove. He says afterwards his mate Howard Jones, the singer from Killswitch, gave him a shout out, but he was already, I think, on his way to hospital. So imagine that, dislocating your knee, jumping around in the middle of a mosh pit, mate. That sounds horrific. I saw that.
But to get a shout out on it, is it worth it? I would have thought so.
I don't know about that, mate. Is it?
I mean, if you were there to witness it, I mean, being caught up on the stretcher and then like waving to people as they go past, that would have been worth it. But I mean, we all do idiotic things. Steve-O seems to do more idiotic things than most, though.
Well, yeah, that is true.
And we love him for it.
More from Milwaukee. It says, just talking about crazy ticket prices for entertainment events. He says he once paid £25 to sit front row at a Battle Royal. Imagine how much that would cost nowadays. And obviously he's referring to the famous Battle Royal at the Albert Hall event from 1991, I think it was, wasn't it, Mags?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
And he was sat front row, and apparently you can see him on the show when you rewatch it back and so on. But £25, how much would that work out now for a front row seat for a WWE event like that?
You're talking hundreds.
Yeah. Yeah, people just get priced out of the market, don't they, I think?
Yeah. That'd go straight up onto Ticketmaster or Get Me In and be hundreds, if not thousands of pounds now.
Yeah, without a doubt. At UTT Rob, our good buddy there, host of the UTT podcast. Check that out if anyone gets the opportunity. Always a good show there. He says here he went to a Sheffield United versus Wimbledon football match in '99 that ended 5-1. He missed his train, and then after getting off the tram in Hillsborough, the town, as opposed to Hillsborough, the actual ground, he had to run across a park and so on to get to the match because obviously he got off at the wrong place as well as missing the train initially, and arrived in the 82nd minute with Wednesday already 4-1 up. Now, to me, at what point do you just think, sod this, I'm going home? Yeah.
Yeah, because around that time is when they start just opening the gates for people wanting to leave.
Yeah, so to beat the traffic sort of thing, yeah.
Yeah, so he could have just nipped in, not even paid for his tickets, or, yeah, that's bad. When you catch 8 minutes of a game and you've missed 4-1, that's brutal.
That is shocking. I went to a Gloucester City game. Gloucester, obviously, my local side. I went to Never Give Up, Rob. Yeah.
I mean, that is dedication, Rob. I appreciate that anyway.
I went to watch Gloucester City play in one of their more successful years back in the late 90s. And it was a 1-1 draw at home. I arrived 5 minutes late, which is when we went 1-0 down. And my lift wanted to leave 5 minutes early, and that's when we equalised. So it was a 1-1 game.
So you caught all the trap in between and missed the 2 good points.
Yeah, basically it was a 1-1 draw, and I didn't see either goal. So yeah, that was worth my afternoon, wasn't it? Dan Griffin at Dan Griffin 21. If anyone's wondering what's going on, my phone is literally just below me here. That's why I keep glancing down. I've not quite mastered the same as Magsy being technologically advanced and having stuff up on the screen I can see here. So apologies if I keep scrolling.
I have walked him through double screening, but he's just it's like teaching a clown to dance.
See, I've got the screen up here. I can see what's going on. I've got my format next to me. That's quite good, I'm quite happy with that. And I actually, Magsy, had another screen running off my laptop yesterday. But because I'm in such a small space, it doesn't fit. So I've got to get another screen that's a bit smaller to get it in here. So and that is literally the space I have, just so everyone can see. There we go. But I love my little cubby hole. It works for me. Okay. Dan Griffin at Dan Griffin 21 on Twitter. He says the worst experience he has had, and it's another football match one, being in Wembley when Liverpool lost the League Cup on penalties to Manchester City. He says he also, and I remember this story from a previous episode, he missed the only ever 9-darter thrown in a PDC World Darts final. He was there live. I think he went to the bar, came back, and had missed the 9-darter. So, and it was the only one, like he says, ever thrown in a PDC World final. So that's shocking to me. That's really bad.
He's also actually, we've got a hot off the ticket with Dan Griffin. He also had tickets to see Sting wrestle for Impact in his first UK appearance in over 10 years. Got stuck on the M62, cost some useless swear word, crashed in the snow.
Oh man, that'd be gutting as well, wouldn't it? Not getting somewhere through. If you screw up yourself, I suppose it's annoying, it's frustrating, but it's kind of on you. But if it's something like that where somebody's crashed, that would drive me batty. I mean, my wife and I, we went to go see. I can't remember the lineup now. I think it was like Def Leppard, Motley Crue, and then there was a couple of bands underneath. I think Steel Panther were opening, stuff like that. And we wanted to see the support acts and crew. But because the person we were going with was so effectively disorganized, we arrived just as crew were going on stage. So we missed the first couple of bands we wanted to see. Now, they were doing us a favor by giving us a lift, so we couldn't say nothing, but I was seething. I was, driving me mad. And since then, it's very rare that we depend on lifts from certain people. Dan Griffin continues. The best experience was being in a skybox at Wembley for the Anthony Joshua versus Klitschko World Heavyweight title fight and AJ winning. That does sound pretty spectacular. Have you ever been in a box or anything like that, Mags?
Yeah, I mean, we'll get to that when it's my turn. So don't jump the gun, sir.
Oh, sorry. He also says he met Ledley King at a Spurs away game. He was a proper gent. He says he missed out on the opportunity to deck the con man that is Michael McIntyre the same day. He's a fraud of a comedian. So there we go. Obviously, Dan, not a fan of Michael McIntyre there. He goes on to also mention he met Ray Clements at a Liverpool Man City Cup final, which was great fun for him as well, being a Liverpool fan. And he said the best moment for him is his mum is a lifelong Liverpool fan, and he took her to a Liverpool Legends match a few years ago. Got to see legends like Aldridge, Rush, Fowler, Kennedy, and so on. But the bit that means the most to him was standing in the cop and singing "You'll Never Walk Alone" with his mum. I think that's fantastic. I'm a United fan, so bleh. But from parents and sharing that moment at sporting stores, that's lovely. I think, Max.
Yeah, really is.
Yeah. GH on Twitter at Carry the Gary says it wasn't a bad concert or a bad entertainment experience, but he once forgot he had tickets to see Jimmy Eat World until 3 days after the concert.
That is absolutely brilliant. I mean, I'm not a huge Jimmy Eat World fan, but if I had tickets for it, I would have at least attempted to go. But yeah, wow, forgetting. I mean, just the fact. Oh, I've got these tickets. Oh shit, I've missed
3 days. Yeah. Oh, mate, you'd be gutted, wouldn't you? Especially if you're going to other people and these people actually went and everyone stood around going, "Where's Gary?" It's that sort of thing, But there we go. He said he spent the night in question playing Streets of Rage 2 with a friend, blissfully unaware the gig was on.
I mean, that's a good way to spend the night. Streets of Rage 2 is an awesome game, classic. One of my favourite games. But to miss a concert for it, oof. No. I mean, Streets of Rage is always going to be there. How many times are you going to be able to see Jimmy World live?
Well, this is it. Yeah.
I mean, Gary, now probably if you just turned up to their house, they'd probably do an impromptu concert.
Sometimes you're quite spiteful, you know that.
It's only took you 30 episodes to realise that.
Well, yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'm getting softer as we go along. I don't know. I'm sort of. Yeah, there we go. Danny at Scottish Juggalo on Twitter. Something right up my street. He attended a Motorhead concert in 2006. 5 minutes into the show, a goth started throwing punches at innocent people, which is obviously disgusting behaviour. People are there to have fun, but you always get some bloody idiot just being a moron, don't you? Anyway, you go. He says, thankfully, a Matthew Kelly lookalike karate kicked the fuck out of the goth, knocking him clean out. got a huge pop from the crowd. He always wondered if it was him. I love the idea that Matthew Kelly is, potentially missing a filming of a game show to pop along and watch Motorhead, and then gets involved in some impromptu martial arts battle. Say, the big circle at the front, and everyone just going fight, 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 and Matthew Kelly's there giving it all the Bruce Lee shit,
Wow. And then Danny's follow-up comment, tonight, Matthew, I'm going to be in intensive care. That is absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, definitely so. Good Cop, Bad Cop Wrestling Podcast at Good Bad Wrestle on Twitter. This will be Graham here. He says his favourite memories of entertainment and events and so on was the whole weekend that Matt and he spent going to WrestleMania 35 in New Jersey. 6 different wrestling shows in 3 days, toured New York City, saw lots of indie events, went to Madison Square Garden. He said he absolutely loved it, and it's immortalized forever in their artwork on their podcast. So go and give them a follow at Good Bad Wrestle. Again, Matt, Radio Tekka's brother, I suppose, and Graham, an excellent chap as well. Go give their show a follow. Go give that a listen. It's brilliant. What week does that come out now? Night does it come out now? Next Sunday, or is that moved?
No, I think it is Sunday. But keep your ears peeled to Radio Tekka's, because that may also be popping up on our schedule in the coming weeks.
Wow. Bloody hell, bloody hell. I've got, this is the very, very first ever message into the show on our Instagram account. The very first one, Mags.
Wow.
I'm not going to lie, we could have had more, but I don't really know how to use it. So
I am shocked.
So if anyone's messaged in on Instagram and I've missed it, I am very, very sorry. But please use the email address that we have. It's chainwrestling@protonmail.com, or Twitter, or Carrier Pigeon, or Smoke Signal. It's easier to get to me that way, I think. It's my friend Harry. Dave, he says it literally says us at Manowar. Tell it. Which I will do. I'll come to that in a moment when we get to the end of these, because it means opening up another window, so you have to bear with me a moment. But yes, we will get to the Manowar weekend. That was quite an event. Andy, Bang Bang Podcast, sent us a DM with a few moments here, which are music and football based. Away trips with football. He says his dad took him to watch the mighty Bristol City away at Millwall in 1984. The coach had all the windows put through by the Millwall fans, and he had to hide under a seat whilst the coach was invaded. He was 6 years old. Stay classy, Millwall Football Club. Stay classy, yeah?
Yeah, exactly.
Scumbags, mate. In 1994, he went to a friend of his. Went to his first away trip to Birmingham City. He's a big lad and got stuck in one of the working turnstiles for away fans. The kickoff was delayed until they got him out. Oh, can you imagine that? Oh,
wow.
No, I'm a big fella. Wow. If I got stuck, I'd be mortified, man. How embarrassing. The whole game being delayed for you being wedged in.
That would, you'd be so devastated.
I'd be mortified. Or it'd be one or two things. I don't think there'd be a middle ground. It'd be very black and white for me. There'd be no grey area. I'd be so mortified I'd have to go home, or I'd be at that stage where I just didn't give a shit.
Yeah, well, depends on how many cans of alcoholic beverage you drunk before.
Well, I suppose
if you were half cut, you'd be like, "Yes, I'm famous. They've stopped the game for me."
I'm going to be in all the local papers. I'm going to be on a clip show on the BBC in 15 years' time for what happened next, or something like that. Andy continues. He went to see Morrissey in Swindon a few years back. He was playing the Oasis Leisure Centre. He did one song, and Andy's put he passed out. So I'm guessing he doesn't believe Mr. Morrissey's health issues here. Or he realised he was playing a gig on a five-a-side pitch and promptly fucked off out of Swindon in a cab. So he's paid for a ticket, sing one song, and the guy's just basically jumped in a taxi and cleared off after one track. Yeah, not good. You had lots of stories about Morrissey, actually, don't you, being a bit of a dick?
Yeah, he's up his own arse. If he wasn't a vegetarian, he would eat himself out, I reckon.
Amazing. Andy finishes off by saying he also saw Pete Doherty in Bristol, and he was smoking on stage, and his hat caught on fire. That's brilliant. I love that.
That's an amazing story. Brilliant.
Comes back to that's I suppose that Donny Tourette story we were telling last week, Max, where he's trying to be all Billy Bad bollocks, wasn't he? And yeah. Oh,
he's lit a cigarette that you can buy in the shops.
Oh, I think I included the clip in the show actually. If anyone wants to jump, was it last week or the week before? If anyone wants to jump back in the archives, as they say, and have a little listen to that. Mentioning that, actually, talking about the shows coming out and so on, the audio format of the show is still going to be available. Wednesday is the normal release date. That is hopefully when it will be coming out as well. Just keep your eyes peeled on all our social medias there. The audio version of the show will still be coming out, despite the fact that we're recording this or broadcasting this live now as well.
You're getting a peek behind the curtain, people. This is how it works. Audio doesn't just record itself and throw itself out there. You have to put in some groundwork.
Yeah. The big difference is obviously I've got clothes on this week, because normally when the camera's off, I'm just sat here naked.
The 5 nerds go away.
Dan Griffin at Dan Griffin 21, he responded once again with, he went to Anthony Joshua versus Joseph Parker in Cardiff, ended up sat next to some twats who were coked off their heads. They were smoking in the stands and doing lines of coke off their bald mate's head. The only thing that calmed them down was being threatened by Russian Pavotkin fans behind them. See, I'm all for people having fun. I'm all for people doing what you want to do. You want to put something up your nose. You want to smoke something funny, whatever. Crack on. It's your life. As long as you're not hurting other people, sound. The moment you start affecting other people around you, or I suppose when you get to that stage of addictions that you're robbing people to fund your habit, that's a different situation. You want to have a bit of fun, great. Don't go somewhere like that and be complete dicks and ruin it for everyone else. That's just ridiculous.
Yeah, it is. I'm along the same lines of you. If you don't harm anyone else and you're enjoying yourself and having fun, you do what you feel you need to do. But when it starts encroaching on other people's enjoyment, you're going too far. You need to just rein it in.
Yeah, exactly.
Saying that, the younger pals in the chat, don't you ever do any of those things.
Or even the older pals, man.
Yes, we're looking at you, Mrs. Powell.
Okay, Maxie, what about yourself, bud?
Well, just before I get to man, we've got plenty in the chat here, so
excellent.
Run through this. Andy from Bang Bang says, "Wait, that's Sar. It's like he's never seen your face before."
He hasn't.
Yeah. Anya confirms that this is Sar, just in case we didn't know. Then Liam, I assume this is the recently birthday boy. So happy belated birthday, Liam. He said, "Don't worry, Dad's never been good with technology. He gets annoyed when the remote doesn't work." Are you the kind of person that will press the button harder to try and make it work?
No. Liam, it's 9:30. Go to bed.
Mrs. Powell confirms that it is very, very true.
For crying out loud, what's this? That was my whole family jumping in to gang up on me.
And don't get him started on Apple products.
Well, I'm just not an iPhone fan, that's all.
Great friend of the show, Scottish Juggalo Danny. He's loving this so far, and we're loving everybody getting involved. It's absolutely amazing. Dan confirms that he actually did see Sting wrestle for Impact the following year.
Good.
He got the Scar box at 24 hours notice for the Joshua fight.
Oh, nice.
Mrs. Powell says that she's still not seen Steel Panther to this day. And it's all your fault, sir.
It's not my fault.
All your fault.
It weren't my fault at all. I've seen them, but
Anya says that she went to the Logan Paul versus KSI fight and got front row tickets as her best friend broke her knee. Again, what a friend. Willing to break her knee to make sure you get front row seats. That's absolutely amazing.
So how that works? Can you do that? Can you just shatter your knee and if you get out of the car and walk with a limp, will you get special treatment or something?
I mean, maybe. I mean, there's that Ali G skit where he pulls up in his car and he pretends he's got a sore leg so he can park in the disabled. So yeah, I suppose it works.
Yeah, very true, very true, very true.
Andy from Bang Bang is not going to hear any Jimmy Eat World slander. Liam comes back and says, not really seeing a bad gig, but rather performing. The singer and drummer were high. Because of this, the singer fluffed his lines, and the lead guitarist was a little bit drunk. Sounds a little bit like when Morshead did Triple H's entrance, and they just didn't remember the words, so he just made them up as he went along.
Yeah, but that's Lemmy. He can do that. Yeah.
Then there's tons and tons of comments. I'm sorry if I missed some of these out, but we've got Sharon coming back with size normally the more at gigs. Never going to see Wasp with him ever again. And he confirms that Sa prefers his correspondence through pigeon mail. Dan with another story. I nearly got stuck in a turnstile at Grimsby. Practically took it to my seat with me. That is absolutely brilliant. And Bang Bang confirming that there was only that one turnstile open.
Oh, that's even worse.
Yeah, that is brutal. Anya has lots of love for my Sports Direct Cup. I actually bought a jacket that I didn't even want because it came with a free cup. I'd give the jacket away.
Could you not have just bought a cup?
Well, the jacket was on. It was like on sale. It was like 95% off. So I ended up just buying it for one of my sons, and the cup came through with it. So that just like sealed the deal for me.
We got a big Sports Direct cup downstairs, mate, and I find that it's like the cheap. I don't know, like the really cheapo own brand cup of soups. They're never quite strong enough because they're quite watery and cheap and crap, aren't they? If you use your Sports Direct mug, but put 2 cup of soups in it, spot on the money.
Yeah, well, this for me is
there
perfect.
You go. Learned something today.
I love oversized coffee cups. I think it might be the 3rd or 4th one I have. The only problem I have with them is the handles are always weak and they'll fall off because they're holding like a gallon of liquid in them. So
normally whiskey, yeah.
In a cup. I am classy, sir. I have a glass for whiskey. But yeah, thank you for your comments in the chat. Just so many coming through, and we really do appreciate it. But yes, I suppose you want to hear my stories. Mine are nowhere near as bad as the horrific tales that we get from our viewers and listeners. But for a good one, we have some family members who own a plumbing merchant suppliers, and one of the reps that he dealt with actually got tickets for a Bolton versus Blackburn game a few years ago. Now, none of us were supporters, so he got these tickets and said, "Do you want to come along?" Because he knew that I enjoyed football, hated both teams, but I enjoyed football. Anyway, so we turns up to the Reebok Stadium, thinking that we were just going to be sat in the stands. Oh no, we got took right up to the executive suites. Oh, it was so posh. I felt well out of place because we were at all these kind of like northern scum essentially, and then he's there having meetings with these reps for plumbing suppliers. So we get to the pre-match meal, and it was absolutely amazing. We had smoked salmon bleedies for starter. We had steak for main, and then we got to just open the kind of the vestibule windows, I suppose, to watch the game. It was we watched a good 3-4 minutes of the game. Couldn't even tell you the score because it was not interesting at all, and we just ended up getting arseholed at the ensuite bar. So yeah, that was a fun time had by all. Me and Mrs. Maggs enjoying a bit of Bolton versus Blackburn football.
Me and my good friend Ash, one of my best mates, we went to see Iron Maiden in a box, and it was fantastic. We got there. We got there relatively early, and all the boxes were empty. We got it through my work. It was like a free gift sort of thing. So we went up to this. It was the O2 in London, and we had like the DHL box we were sat in, and it was fantastic, mate. They had all the food laid out for us. We had a little balcony you could sit on, comfy seats and all, and you had a really great view. And I went up to the bar, and basically asked the young lass behind the counter because she had a big fridge with all bottled lagers in and cans of lager and all this, and lots of wine bottles and spirits and so on. And I said, so expecting like some extravagant price because it's London, it's a box. So how much for a lager? And she said, oh, it's all complimentary. And I was like, sorry? Yeah, everything. she makes it everything apart from these 2 bottles here, which are some sort of really posh spirits. Everything else is free. Just have as much as you want. I was like, oh, you're about to see something really special, my love. And the next 3 hours, everything. And I cannot really remember much about Iron Maiden, but I know they were good.
It's brilliant when you get a box and it's all laid on. So it's like winning the lottery.
It is, mate. It is. So have you got any more there, Magsy, or is that?
Yeah, so for a bad one, and there's quite a few incidents that happened. But me and Mrs. Mags, we used to frequent Bingley Music Festival quite regularly. And this one year we went. I don't know if you've ever been to Bingley, but essentially the festival part is in this park in the town of Bingley called Myrtle Park. But the camping is in essentially a rugby pitch, which is a few hundred meters further down the road. So what you do is you go and set your tent up, and then you essentially do this march with the whole of the patrons of Bingley into Bingley Music Festival, and you go through all these like barriers to get through. You get searched and stuff like that. So this one year, we discovered that you could get Capri Suns. Now you remember Capri Suns with the straw that you pierce and you drink away. Fun time is had by all. Well, you could get Capri Suns with a screw top. Right, so us being the ingenious people that we were, we bought several of these Capri Suns, drunk what was in it, rinsed them out, and topped it up with vodka. Because I don't know about you, but festival prices for beer is
it's disgusting,
scandalous.
Yeah,
but then you have the issue of getting these Capri Suns into their festival. They do bag searches, so you can't take in any drinks at all. So you have to smuggle these on your person. So me, for my Capri Suns, I kind of wedged them in between my legs and the section that hangs between the legs. I don't want to get too graphic. So I'm there going through this chicane of barriers, getting ready to be searched, walking essentially like I've shit myself, trying to keep the top of my legs wedged together whilst the bottom of the legs are walking away. But I don't know, for people who don't know what Capri Suns are, they're essentially a foil wrapped drink. And that foil can be quite sharp.
Yeah.
Like to the point where if you're not careful, it can cut you. And these 2 Capri Suns did cut in the place where they were being smuggled, let's just say. So that wasn't fun. But being a festival goer, I dealt with it as anyone would. You just get pissed and forget about it. So then the next incident came. We had a tent, and it was one of those kind of like last minute things. So we just ordered the first tent available. We set it up. It was absolutely fine. Went to go to sleep in the tent at ridiculous o'clock in the morning. The tent was too short. So my legs had to hang out of the tent. Okay. And if you go back in the archives of chain wrestling, you'll remember a story that I told where I've essentially destroyed one of my legs through various accidents and incidents. And I've got pins essentially holding my ankle together. And when that ankle gets particularly cold, it ends up being, my God, next to useless. So I wake up the next morning ready to go on another festival jaunt and find that I am not able to essentially walk that distance from the campsite to Myrtle Park. So poor Mrs. Maggs had to drive me home. and I missed the second and third night of that festival. I mean, she left me. She drove me home, left me at the door. I got my way in, and she went back to the festival and had a jolly old time. But yeah, so that was a very, very bad weekend for me. But I enjoyed the one night I had was brilliant. I think it was Headline Bar, the specials, and then the Human League were on as well. So we had a good time for that one night.
For that one night.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I suppose I better quickly run through the Man of War story that Ari messaged in. This was more of a weekend of very, very big up and downs, I guess. We had a B&B booked just outside Birmingham to go. Big heavy metal fans. Man of War are bands that we both really enjoy. They're incredibly cheesy and over the top and ridiculous if nobody's ever heard of or seen Man of War. But it's great music, as cheesy and ridiculous as it is. So we went along to go see Man of War, thinking we'd never get to see them because they very rarely play the UK. Very rarely. They headline festivals in Europe and South America and so on. Here, they're playing a tiny little club in Birmingham. So we got tickets, even though the place sold out really, really fast. Trekked over to Birmingham to watch this, and we're having a few beverages on the train and so on. Get to our hotel, a B&B or whatever it was, and it's the most disgusting place I've ever been in. There's stains up the wall, which I'm fairly certain came from one end of a human. I'm not sure where. There's mold in the borders. It was terrible, mate. So it was so bad. So straight away we're thinking this is no good. And then Ari turns around and says he can't find his ticket.
Oh,
so we're like, what? So we're outside the front of the B&B. Basically, we see it through the window, or what looks like it through the window, and we end up running around on this like grass verge, and Harry's chasing his ticket, fluttering down the road on this gust of wind, like some sort of expensive sold-out butterfly just out of his reach, just sort of fluttering away, So he's chasing this bloody thing that eventually gets it back. But a couple of hours later, he's lost it again. Thankfully, again, this time we find it in the room. It was okay, but that was a panic. And by this point, I'm starting to think, oh, for crying out loud. A plus point, we arrive at the show and we're quite smashed. We both got our jackets on with patches all over the back, and we're at the time very big bearded fellas and so on. And these two younger heavy metal fans decide, and this is their words, not mine, okay? They decide to call us, and I've got the quote here, bloody hell, you two look like rock gods. So me and Harry were just like, okay,
yes, we do.
Say so. And these two young lads basically just bought us our drinks all night long. So that was a plus point. And we consumed. They were like, you guys can really put your beer away. And we were like, if you're paying for it, yes, I will just keep going. So that was a plus point to the whole weekend.
Less talk, more get to the bar.
Yeah. Harry then was relatively poorly because he decided he was going to have 2 jumbo kebabs rather than maybe just 1. And then walking, we lost him for a while, bumped into him coming out the kebab shop, half eating one kebab with another in his hand, half of it down his front. And then to round the evening off, Harry, in his inebriated state, thought it'd be really funny to see if he could get a kiss off a homeless guy for 20 quid, which he actually did. He paid a homeless guy £20 for a bit of a kiss and said, please go, yeah, Uncle Metal Anya, that's right, it's that bloody idiot. Please use that money to not buy alcohol, but please buy a toothbrush. Now, I'm thinking that if he's paying for kisses, that's surely some form of solicitation, some sort of illegal activity there, but that's the thing. So the weekend of very much up and downs. I didn't remember a great deal of this until Harry messaged in and said the Man of War weekend. So when I asked him to, just like when he sent me the message, I've read it through and I was like, oh, okay, that's all right, because he sounds a lot worse than me. So I read that. But no, that's kind of it, mate, really. I've had some absolutely disasters. I saw a puddle of mud in the Gloucester Guildhall.
I mean, you don't have to go any further. That's just a disaster in itself.
The main guy was, he spent the whole afternoon in the Weatherspoons around the corner, apparently, and he was just an absolute write-off. Forgot to play one of their biggest hits at the end. There was a lot of trouble with that gig. He was an absolute state. It was an embarrassment. Wow. On the other side of the coin, I've been fortunate enough to see pretty much every one of my favourite bands live. I've had some brilliant experiences. I've seen Motorhead 10 plus times, and before obviously we lost Lemmy. Fantastic times doing that. I've been fortunate to see AC/DC a couple of times, and the show they put on is incredible. So yeah, I've been to loads and loads and loads of concerts. My good experiences far outweigh my bad, so I'm quite happy with that, mate.
Yeah, I mean, even the bad experiences at concerts they always give you something to remember, I suppose. It's just that you do go for the music and come away with an amazing tale. We've got plenty more comments in the chat. Dan said he once went to West Brom versus Liverpool corporate. Liverpool won, and then after the game, Johnny Evans and Chris Brunt were coming up the stairs. Johnny Evans slipped, and his Dan's dad said, "With footwork like that, that's why you lost the game." That's brilliant.
Nice.
Then Scottish Danny said he met Kurt Angle in 2015. Spoiler, he's not 6'1", but he was a real gentleman. Bang Bang Podcast, Andy, my mate's a diabetic, so we used to smuggle vodka in his used Lucozade bottles at Glastonbury. He needs a Lucozade, he's diabetic. It works every time. Brilliant.
Wow.
And then Anya soliciting advice for a festival in London next month. And the first thing that advice that came up, Scottish Danny, get in and out of London as fast as humanly possible. That's very...
Yeah, I can get on board with that.
Five nerds go, London is a shithole. Never a truer word was spoken on this podcast. Dan follows up your puddle of mud story with that he tried to hit on his mate's wife when he was supposed to be singing. He still reckons Ash should have decked him.
Yeah, the bloke's a dick.
Mama Powell comes back and says she loves the Guildhall.
Yeah, it's fantastic venue, absolutely brilliant venue. Love the place, yeah. But it was just that the guy from the Puddle of Mud was a dick. So.
And then that was the first gig that I took my best friend to as well. Si had a good night, motorboating her all night. Wow.
We've got a special relationship. Don't you worry about that. Don't you worry about that.
But again, some absolutely amazing comments, and we appreciate the lot. You're way too many to read out. This show would go 3, 4, 5 hours if I read them all out, but we do appreciate it.
Aye, again, thank you so much, everyone, for the interactions. Also, you can interact with us live here, but it's also worth keeping your eye out on our social medias, the Twitter, the Facebook, the what's the other one? Instagram. You can find us on all of those if you just search @chain_wrestling on all of them. Chuck them all a follow. That's where the Twitter especially is where our weekly polls arrive for voting for our wrestling topics. And normally most interaction is on the Twitter for our non-wrestling topic as well. But they're all there, open. Chuck them all a follow. And at the end of the show, we'll run through all our social medias as well. Magsy then, mate, should we talk a little wrestling?
Let's do it.
Let's get ready to rumble.
Look at that, professional.
Hey, that was flash. I had to lie down after that. That took my breath away. That was. Winning the poll this week with a whopping 65% of the votes was Magsy's choice for the main event from WrestleMania 17, which was originally broadcast on the 1st of April 2001 from the Reliant Astrodome in Houston, Texas. There was 67,925 in attendance, if you believe the WWE figures. So you probably round it down a little bit because, let's be honest, they lie a lot. The buy rate for this show was just over 1 million buys, which is huge, absolutely gigantic. Yes, Mags did definitely put that bit together. There's no way on earth I could have done that. No chance. No chance. Magsy, this pay-per-view is superb. It's absolutely fantastic. And this main event is awesome as well. I always remember it for the ending, which obviously we'll come to when we get there. But the match itself is far better than I remember it being.
Yes, it's so good. I mean, this is what it goes almost half an hour, but you wouldn't have thought it because you were just on the edge of your seat essentially from the minute one. I mean, before we get to the match, though, you you have to watch the promo a few minutes before. The incredible My Way. That for me is a promo that is unmatched in WWE programming. And even if you've got time, search out the Jim Ross sit down interview between the two in the run up. I think it's on the SmackDown from the 22nd of March 2001. That to me feels. That's Jim Ross in his element. That's exactly how AEW should be using him now in that kind of situation. He's so good at getting that kind of emotion across in an interview. The Rock and Austin obviously having this bitter rivalry. And then you threw in the mix that Deborah was assigned the Rock's manager by Vince. Then you have Rock saying he wasn't there to protect her. That's Austin's problem, which leads to more issues down the road when Deborah gets hit by, I think, Kurt Angle. Oh no, she gets the ankle lock, by Kurt Angle. So Austin comes out, beats up the Rock for that because he's not looking out for her, which leads to the Rock coming out and hitting the Rock bottom. It's just a great way to build up to this match. And then we haven't even spoke about the fact that Vince had just bought his Rivals, and all that was in this lead up. It was such a convoluted storyline going into this, and how Vince pulled out the best WrestleMania of all time with all those kind of balls juggled in there is phenomenal.
You also had the XFL starting for the first time around this period as well, didn't you? The football league that they tried to promote. So he was buying his biggest rivals in WCW that way. I mean, the Monday before this WrestleMania was the simulcast, I think they call it, don't they? Where you had Monday Nitro and Raw broadcasting at the same time, and then unveil that Shane has actually got WCW and so on. That was the Monday before this WrestleMania, and you had
the Panama City show,
and you had WCW wrestlers sat in the skybox watching the show that they kept cutting to every now and again. You're right, Maxie. This is an unbelievable pay-per-view. It's a 4-hour show, just shy of, that is absolutely storming. Hello, Liv. Absolutely storming event from start to finish. But all this was going on at the same time. It baffles me, really, that now you get the modern product that is as poor as it is. But you know, 20 years ago, you could produce this with so much going on in the background as well.
Yeah, it's this was when wrestling was at its peak for me in coolness. It was the hottest it had been for WWE, at least. The fact that they'd beaten their rivals after the infamous 83 weeks, they were essentially the only show in town, and they put on the biggest event possible. And it could have easily flopped, but they absolutely nailed it. And another thing to consider is that this show might have been cut short due to the hardcore match that happened earlier in the night.
Yes. When
Raven drove essentially a golf cart, parked it on the main cable that powered the whole stadium. And it was very close to severing that cable. So, a lot of it seems like all the eggs were in one basket, and we got this amazing show out of it.
Yeah, without a doubt, it was a fantastic pay-per-view. The main event itself, then, I mean, the build-up is obviously that they're heading to this huge WrestleMania, so they want something special in the main event, as they always do for WrestleMania. Of course, it's their biggest show of the year. So we're looking at The Rock and Austin are the two biggest names in the business at this stage, and have been for a while. They are absolutely huge. Both of them are on relatively the good guy side of the fence, I guess. The fans are firmly behind both of these individuals. You have Austin winning the Rumble in January to book his place in the main event of WrestleMania, and then the following month at No Way Out, you have The Rock beating Kurt Angle to win the title. So that sets up Austin versus The Rock at WrestleMania. The two biggest names in the business going for, at this stage, I guess, the biggest prize at the biggest show in the biggest match. And so it's huge. It's huge. And the crowd sort of, I suppose, echo how big and how great this match is. As you mentioned, Magsy, the video package, the build-up that they show before this is done so well. And then the crowd are just so into this. Obviously, it's Texas, so it's Austin's home state. It's almost like it's home field advantage for him. But they are crazy wild, this Texas crowd, aren't they? The volume and the noise, it's fantastic, isn't it?
Everything that Austin does in this match gets a huge pop until we get to the end. But yeah, his coming out to that edited the kind of remix Austin music, the crowd lapping up. It's deafening. I mean, for me, there's only two pops that can match this. It's the one with that we see with Rock and Hogan, WrestleMania 18. And then the Jericho debut on Raw. It's along those lines of being so loud that it gives you goose pimples of just how electric this crowd was.
Yeah, without a doubt. I think as well, I don't need to explain it again, but I'm going to anyway. I'm a massive Jim Ross fan. Everyone who listens to this show or my other show know how big a Jim Ross fan I am. And this guy provided the soundtrack to my youth, the soundtrack to everything I was watching. He was a commentator on WCW when I was watching WCW bits and bobs in the early 90s. He was then the commentator for WWE from 93 onwards when I was getting the videotapes from my uncle and so on. He was obviously the commentator through this period when I was watching it on Sky. And it's fantastic now that Jim Ross works for AEW and I can watch Jim Ross commentating now with my daughter and so on. That I love all that as well. That's a real special thing for me personally. But I think Jim Ross here, alongside Paul Heyman as the commentary team, just add so much. I know it's a bit of a cliche that they're providing the soundtrack to the pictures on screen and it's their job to build the hype and so on. But I think Heyman and Jim Ross together is a hugely underrated commentary duo, because everyone thinks of Jim Ross and Jerry Lawler together, but I think these two, I prefer these two.
Yeah, especially for this match, knowing the storyline that's going to come with Heyman being part of the invasion and stuff like that. But yeah, Heyman knocks it out of the park. He is the perfect foil for this match. I think if you had King in that role with his kind of like bawdy attempts at comedy, I don't think it would work as well, because there was nothing comical about this match. This was for all the marbles. This was serious. This meant so much, and I think Jim Ross and Paul Heyman did a perfect job at getting that passion and emotion over to the people watching at home. Yeah,
without a doubt. I think it helps that they didn't necessarily like each other as well, because the bickering between them, it almost did feel that extra realism to that, I guess.
And that bickering built as the match went on, because you get closer to the end and Paul is actively taking jabs at Jim Ross, saying, "Oh, you have to watch your boy, essentially your best friend, not being able to achieve the what he wants to achieve." So it's even that was a story in itself, how they were getting more and more aggressive at the comments towards each other.
Yeah, definitely. We start off very, very quickly, don't we? Punch it, just a brawl right from the off. There's no. This isn't. Sorry, go on.
Essentially, Austin interrupts Rock's entrance, because we get the Austin entrance. He comes down the ramp. Does his
a huge reaction as well. The crowd go crazy.
It's massive. It's absolutely massive. And he does the four corners thing and middle finger into the crowd and stuff like that. Then the Rock comes out and he stands on one corner, and we get that sweeping camera angle from the back, and it's such a brilliant shot. Just shows how big that crowd was. Just shows how epic the event was.
Flash bulbs as well.
Yeah,
that's something I really miss from wrestling. When you, the old-fashioned cameras, the old-fashioned flash bulbs going off everywhere when they stand in the corner and pose, and everything just lights up. I miss that.
and now it's just phone flashlights. But yeah, we get that image, and The Rock is staring down Austin, and Austin won't take his eyes off the belt. And then he goes to a second corner, doing the same thing. You were expecting him to go to a third corner, and Austin just lamps him on the way down, and we are off to the races. Just massive, massive shots, quick luthers. The Rock. He kind of stops Austin's momentum with that swinging net breaker, and the boos he gets for that is unreal. I mean, this was heat just because he did a swinging net breaker to stop Austin laying into him. Wow, that is shocking. The Rock drew so much heat, and then we get almost like the quick attempts at finisher. Both guys go for their finisher, which is stopped, and then we even see The Rock attempting a stunner, which is then leads to the first time that they get onto the outside of the ring.
Yeah, definitely. It was at this moment I was watching this match with my youngest daughter. And I sort of turned to her and I said, who do you want to win then? And she sat there eating her tea. She knows The Rock. She knows Austin. She watches a lot of the old wrestling back with me and I like that because, as I mentioned on previous shows, I get to a lot of the time see a first time reaction to something that you and I, Mags, maybe have seen over and over again. Charlie loves Steve Austin anyway. She thinks the guy's great. And she's a big fan of The Rock as well. But on this instance, she was very much Team Austin. And I asked why. And she said it was very much because of the Broken Skull Ranch show that he did, because we watched it on holiday one year. It just happened to be on at the same time we sit down for our tea. So Austin has obviously, worked his way into her heart through this game show that he hosted on his ranch, which is quite nice. But we got so many big moments early on, but they probably seem bigger than they actually are because of the crowd. You get a big flying clothesline from The Rock and a big belly-to-belly suplex from The Rock that are greeted by, again, a chorus of boos. But they seem huge moves. But I think maybe that's because, again, of the reaction of the crowd.
Yeah, and I suppose when you were at the headlining the biggest show in wrestling, you put that extra little percentage of effort in, so you fly through the air a little further. Your shots land with a little bit more kind of energy. So I think that's why they kind of stand out. If you were watching this same match on a standard weekly Raw, they probably wouldn't put as much effort in.
No.
So that I think that's why it stands out. So early on, Austin he's pointed out by Paul Heyman, which is brilliant, how desperate he was to win the belt, that he's willing to expose the turnbuckle. We then go back outside, and this is the one minor quibble I will have with this match. It's when we get to the ring bell table. We get I think it's Austin's head gets slammed into it. Then the Rock kind of is talking to Earl Hebner, who trips over the ring stairs.
Yeah,
and then Rock trips over him, and then does a blade job of Ric Flair proportions. Let's say he might as well just go straight up to the camera, because you see him pick up the blade. And then he falls over, and then he like puts the blade to his head, and you see all of it go perfectly live on camera. Austin grabs the ring bell, clock, and then it's made out as if the ring bell is what made The Rock bleed, when really he bladed. And he bladed
know what went
badly.
on, don't we?
Yes,
we know
we
what
do.
went on. You get a little bit of the same from Steve Austin himself, I think, when you go back into the ring, because Austin ends up getting sent into the exposed turnbuckle. So we've got like just literally the metal hook in the corner where the pad's been taken off. Austin gets his head bumped into it, bounces back, lands on the mat, and we can see him go in his trunks and sort of ferret around a little bit before the camera cuts away. So you kind of see what's happening there, you know what's coming. But yeah, we end up with both guys bleeding quite heavily. But the pace never really drops, Mags, does it? It's like these matches that go on, these main event matches that go on 25, 30 minutes or whatever. You tend to find there's a lull in the action. You always start quick, finish quick, whatever, but somewhere along the way, there's a bit of a lull in the action, a bit of a drop in speed, or however you want to word it. I don't think that happened here at all.
No,
Until literally right at the end, when there was potentially a couple of moments where they were stalling for dramatic effect with what went on there. But
yeah, I mean, you've got the whole kind of a segment where Austin is essentially rebounding off the ropes from the Rock's punches, which is slows the pace down a little bit, but not enough for you to be taken out of the show. And then you get the bits include where they involve the sharpshooter, which for me is a beautiful kind of like callback to WrestleMania 13.
That was awesome. With the blood as well.
Exactly, it was such a good visual, and then when you get Austin basically doing the sharpshooter to the Rock, and you get that similar kind of view with all Rock's blood dripping into his mouth and it mixing with his saliva, so it's streaming all over. Such a good visual. The Rock powers out of that, and then. Yeah, we see Austin pull out the $1 Million Dream, which is so. I mean, the callbacks in this is just absolutely brilliant. I mean, there's a point where The Rock counters that $1 Million Dream, just like how Bret Hart countered at Survivor Series '96. So it's just callback after callback after callback. It's so good.
Even going a little bit further as well, the sleeper counter from Bret Hart to pin Roddy Piper at WrestleMania 8. That was very much a similar sort of finish there. The sharpshooter moments I enjoyed as well because of the comments made by my little wrestling companion watching the match with me. She kind of watched, and obviously before the match, it's been made public that at the last minute this has all of a sudden become no disqualification.
Yeah.
So Charlie very astutely and very cleverly states, well, the only person who can make it no disqualification this late is Vince McMahon. So why has he done that? So fair play, Charlie. Little tick for you there. That's very well worked out. But then we're sat watching the sharpshooter moments, and The Rock is the one who puts it on first. Austin gets to the ropes. The Rock is getting told by the ref to let go because Austin has made the ropes, and he does. And Charlie quite rightly states, well, why is he letting go? It's a non-disqualification. It's a no DQ match. You know, so my 11-year-old daughter is pointing out flaws in what they're doing, I guess. Why does he let go? He doesn't have to. It's a no DQ match. And then Austin puts the sharpshooter on The Rock. And when The Rock makes the ropes, the referee tells Austin to get off. He's figured this out, and he gives the sort of standard Stone Cold salute, I guess, the referee, because he's not getting off. He's holding that hold on for a bit longer. But that sort of, it didn't actually enter my mind until my daughter pointed that out to me, Mags.
Yeah, it's like the rules of a match only apply when they need to apply.
Yeah.
And when it works for the story that they don't apply, they don't apply. I mean, do you really need a referee for a no disqualification match apart from to count the pin? But yet you'll still see referees getting involved in. For instance, Earl Hebner in this match was telling Austin to get in the ring all the time. But if it's no disqualification, why does he need to do that? All he needs to do is be around to make sure we get that pin.
Yeah. Also, on a little side note, I bloody hate how The Rock does a sharpshooter. I've always hated it. It looks like crap. It looks like when John Cena does an STF. It is shite, mate. And it probably takes me out at the moment. Do you know what I mean? I'm all about realism and being lost in what I'm watching, the illusion of what they're creating for us as fans. And when The Rock puts a sharpshooter on, it's just like, oh, mate. Do you know what I mean?
Whereas the Austin sharpshooter, where he really kind of leaned back into it, and he made it look really kind of brutal.
I'm a big Rock fan, by the way. I don't want to be seen as like just criticizing the guy, but that is one thing that I really, really am not a fan of. After these sharpshooter spots, that is when the aforementioned Vince McMahon arrives, striding to the ring in the way he can.
You've missed when The Rock hits the stunner.
Oh, okay, yeah. Carry on, Maxie.
Yeah, so pretty much straight after the $1 Million Dream section, where The Rock turns it into a pin, and Austin has to let go of the $1 Million Dream, or else he will lose the match. He turns around and Rock bangs in with a stunner, gets a 2 count. The crowd are going absolutely ballistic, and then Paul Heyman and Jim Ross point out that Vince McMahon is walking down to the ring, and it's not his usual kind of Billy Big Bollocks walk. He's walking with a purpose. It's actually kind of it's explained by Paul Heyman that this match is the most important match in the WWF. It's a decision for $1 billion company, and he wants to make sure that the right victory happens. There's no kind of illusion to who he's there to help. But yeah, Vince starts making his way down to the ring. I think we see Austin get a pin, almost a pinfall from a spine buster. The Rock does the same for him, hits a people's elbow, and then Vince shows his allegiance when he pulls the Rock off the pin, and the pop is massive. The Rock is confused, realizes that Vince has screwed him, and we get those kind of like one-on-one close-ups of Vince being smarmy and cocky. Then when he realizes the Rock knows what he's done, he's got that kind of oh shit look, like almost kind of the gulp. The Rock goes outside, chases him around the ring.
Watching McMahon run is always really funny, isn't it? It's kind of like a little waddly sort of, Yeah,
it's so funny. But I mean, for a guy of his age, he was still pretty nippy. He outpaced he outpaced the Rock, but Vince slides into the ring. The Rock follows him, but Austin has got back to his feet, catches the Rock in a rock bottom, and bang, goes for the pin. Still can't get it. Hits the stunner. Rock says, no, this is not. And that's when we get the ref bump, the typical Earl Hebner ref bump.
Yeah, that's right. Which, again, I suppose you don't need because it's a no DQ match. So he's not going to get disqualified for using... basically, we're coming to the end of the match now, and you have McMahon siding with Austin, which is... you go back any time previously to this, it's unthinkable that this would happen because the rivalry they had, the whole company was built around the Austin McMahon rivalry for years. So the fact that they're siding together here is quite a moment in wrestling history, I guess, and it's quite a surprise for a lot of people watching. But so we have McMahon McMahon and Austin basically holding the Rock. One would hold him, the other one would hit him with a chair. When that didn't work, they'd fetch another chair and beat the Rock down with that, working together to basically just destroy the Rock until ultimately they do get the job done, don't they? They get the 3 count after an absolutely brutal beat down of the Rock when he's on the floor, just hitting him with his chair.
And having Vince there cheerleading Austin doing this, love him or hate him, Vince, when he's in the ring, he shows passion, and he sold that he wanted the Rock to take that whooping. It was a really cool, again, another really cool visual in a match full of cool visuals. But the commentary on this was getting to the peak for me. You had Paul Heyman saying that this proves that Austin will do absolutely anything. He will forget the hatred of his biggest rival in wrestling just for that chance to be WWF champion again. And it was true because he essentially shook hands with the devil after the match. He literally just beats the shit out of Rock with the chair, gets the pin. We get the stare off between Vince and Austin. They both look down, and the camera pans down to the shake heard round the world. Austin has shook hands with the devil, and then to finish it off, we get the beers between Austin and McMahon. And to be fair to McMahon, he can chug a beer with the best of them. He didn't miss a drop. Austin lays a beer down in respect for the Rock. Then the Rock gets back up and he gets leveled again, which is just brilliant.
Yeah, definitely. Some lines on commentary were just, like you said, Maxie, just brilliant. Brilliant, sound to the pictures we're seeing, isn't it? It's a brilliant soundtrack to the visuals we're getting. Stone Cold is shaking hands with Satan himself as the handshake went on, as you said there, Max. Stone Cold has sold his soul for the WWF title, is another one, because he's forming this allegiance with the evil Vince McMahon, I guess. Just brilliant storytelling, brilliant drama, just brilliant wrestling, and a great match, I think.
Yeah, it really, really is. I mean, from the two biggest stars in wrestling, this was kind of like it's special when you capture lightning in a bottle with one big name wrestler, but to have two of this caliber together at the same time, it was absolute magic. And like it or love it with the Austin heel turn, a lot of people in hindsight absolutely hated it. But if you want to do something that will make sure people are watching Raw the next day and make sure they're watching for the next few weeks and months, there was no bigger heel turn at that time. Absolutely not.
That's right.
The fact that Austin shaking hands with his mortal enemy. I mean, this is a guy who spent years tormenting Vince McMahon, and Vince McMahon spent years tormenting Steve Austin. These two hated each other with a vengeance, but for the sake of the WWF title, they were willing to put all that aside and shake hands with the devil. It's brilliance, absolute brilliance.
Yeah. And you mentioned there about getting people to tune in again afterwards with what went on the show. That worked for me because I sat there and I put the episode of Raw on, the following episode of Monday Night Raw after this. Give you a little rundown of what happens there. The Rock arrives, demanding a rematch that night. Triple H is cross with Vince because he's saying, well, why are you siding with Austin? What about me? Sort of thing. Eventually, The Rock gets his rematch in a steel cage that evening on Raw. Now, I totally forgot all this happened. That we've got the two biggest names in the business facing each other yet again the very next night in a steel cage. I can't believe I forgot that, but that's quite a big deal as well, isn't it?
Was that not the last we see of The Rock for a while? Because I'm sure that's when he goes off to film the Scorpion King. Because
Scorpion King.
Because that's what leads to the two-man power trip that we were getting with right. Austin and Triple H, yeah.
Yeah, because that's how the show goes off the air. The Rock's got beaten up by Triple H getting involved as well, yeah. Was it I thought 2002 he left to do Scorpion King. Was he in The Mummy, maybe?
It could have been that, yeah.
I don't
know. I know he left for a while.
My wife would know. She's a big Dwayne Johnson, but yeah. So then, Magsy, I suppose we do as we always do, rate our matches out of 10. Just a reminder for everyone out there. That's right. What about me, Triple H? That's right.
Dan Griffin in the chat, brilliant.
The format is always to rate out of 10. But we need to remember that despite how fantastic this pay-per-view is, we're rating the match itself, not the event or the ongoings around it. So, as always, Mags, do you want to go first?
Yeah. Again, taking into account that this is on the best pay-per-view that WWF has ever put on, it would be easy to give this a 10 out of 10. But as we rate this on its own as a match, there was a few things that kind of didn't make sense. The ref bumper, the following the rules of a DQ match as and when it sees fit, the dodgy blade jobs. So on its own, I can't in good conscience give it a 10 out of 10 because it's certainly not on the level of Kenny and Okada 4. No. But it was still a massively, massively entertaining match. So I think I'm going to give it 8.5 out of 10.
Bloody hell. Do you know what I've got written down in front of me here, Max? 8.5 out of 10 I've got.
Wow.
Same again, mate. Same again.
Great man, think alike.
For all the same, all idiots agree, either or. For all the same reasons as you, mate. It's fast paced. It's right from the very beginning. It doesn't seem to let up for the whole time. There's storytelling, the drama, and you get all the stuff you want. There's a bit of blood there. There's interference, but it's done well with McMahon. It's not unnecessary interference. The chair shots, they're using each other's moves on each other. The sharpshooter spots, fantastic. Just absolute drama all the way through. And then that classic WWF style swerve ending, the surprise ending with McMahon. But if my little girl is turning around and pointing out flaws in the sort of refereeing of a no DQ match, that kind of takes me out of the moment as well. It doesn't quite sit well with me. And again, the blading and certain other moments. So 8.5 for me, I think is pretty accurate, mate. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It just makes sense.
Yeah, definitely.
Dan Griffin in the chat is saying it's a conspiracy between us honestly, Dan, we do not kind of confer about those numbers. It's just like we said, great minds think alike, or fools seldom differ, I suppose.
we actually sort of have quite a few matches where we're quite way off each other, don't we?
Mhm.
But then you look at the averages, we're really close. It's funny how
Yeah.
it works out, because there are some where you've given it like a 6 and I've given it a 2 or whatever. And then there are other matches where we've done the same, what we've done here, 8.5 each. But somehow it works out like, I think our averages are around 6.8 or 6.9 each, roughly, give or take. So it's funny after so many episodes that it does work out as close as it does, I guess, Max.
Yes, it's you would think we would be kind of way off with you knowing way more about the older kind of wrestling, the pre WWF, I suppose, and then the WCW side of things, and with me being a dad in the wool WWF fan, you'd think we would have wildly different opinions, but we do seem to agree quite a lot. It's just that when we don't agree, they're so wide that it kind of inflates the numbers.
Yeah, well, there we go. I can't guide you in the right way all the time, Magsy, I'm afraid. Can I? Yeah. So then, where do we go next? And for those watching or listening for the first time, as Magsy explained at the top of the show, the way this show works, the way Chain Wrestling works, is every show links to the previous and the next. So today's topic was obviously Rock versus Stone Cold Steve Austin, WrestleMania 17. We now will both put forward an option as to where we go next week, which will have to link to this match, whether it's to do with a certain title, a certain competitor, the arena, whichever way we want to do it. Magsy will put forward his choice, I'll put forward mine. In a day or two after the show comes out in audio style, the options will appear on our Twitter at @chain_wrestling, on Twitter as a poll for people to vote in. And then when the poll closes, whoever has the most votes, that is what we cover next week, and so on and so on and so on. So in theory, you can trace our very first episode, Scott Steiner versus Booker T in a straight jacket steel cage match, which was nonsense and horrible to watch, right the way through up to WrestleMania 17 here via the Global Wrestling Federation, WCW, the NWA, WWF, New Japan, all over the place. So yeah, Magsy, where would you like to take us next?
Okay, so this, like we've said time and time again, was arguably one of WWE's biggest shows, arguably their best WrestleMania that they put on, and it was absolutely star-packed. I mean, you've got Chris Jericho in an early match against William Regal. You've got the likes of Kane and Raven and Big Show in a hardcore match. You've got the street fight between Shane and Vince McMahon. But you've got two wrestlers smack bang in the middle of the card. Who is getting his real first taste of being in the main card fixture, and one who is who that will soon come for him. He's more kind of now in those kind of workhorse title scenes. I'm looking at Eddie Guerrero, who beat Test for the WWF European title, and then Kurt Angle, who beat Chris Benoit.
Okay.
Now those two would face off a WrestleMania of their own just 3 years later. So the match I want to go to is the single match for the WWE title, Eddie Guerrero going in as champion, defending against Kurt Angle at WrestleMania 20.
Oh, what a match that was. Let me just make a quick note of that here. That is a barnstormer. And this was 2004, wasn't it, WrestleMania 20? That's a period of wrestling I really enjoy. People don't like to talk about him for obvious reasons, but Benoit had a world title match, and the end of his life, disgusting. But the matches that we had during this period with Shawn Michaels, Triple H, and so on, fantastic stuff. Eddie Guerrero was superb in this era. SmackDown as a whole was fantastic, and that match there, Angle versus Eddie at WrestleMania 20, what a contest that is! That is absolutely storming, and I'm fairly certain, Mags, that you're going to actually trounce me in the poll this week. I'm not going to lie. That is a barnstormer of a match. That is a barnstormer.
For the first official live chain wrestling, I had to go hard. So if your pick tops that, it must be a banger. So let's hear it.
Going hard live on the internet, mate. Are we back on that webcam again, are we? Or is this my choice actually goes, I suppose, back to my wheelhouse, back to my favorite sort of time, I guess, one of my favorite periods in wrestling. And you mentioned earlier on, Magazine, we were saying about our differences with you being very much WWF fan, and I've got my interests in NWA and WCW and so on as well. And the link is quite straightforward, to be fair. I'm going to use Stone Cold Steve Austin as the link. He famously wrestled in WCW when he had floppy blonde hair and no beard as Stunning Steve Austin. And for around 9 months, I think, it seems like it was a lot longer in memory, but when we actually look at the timeline, I think it was only around 8 to 9 months. Austin was part of a really, really good tag team called the Hollywood Blondes with Flying Brian Pillman. Brilliant tag team in quite a good period for WCW in ring. Production wise, storyline wise, shocking. It was dire. But in ring, we had some very good action there. And I'd like to go back to, let me just bring the date up here. Bear with me. I would like to go back to June 16th, 1993. And using Austin as the link, watch the Hollywood Blondes face off against Ric Flair and Arn Anderson in a 2 out of 3 falls match for the NWA and WCW World Tag Team titles from Clash of the Champions 23.
Mm-hmm. Great pick. Again, not something that's really in my wheelhouse, but sounds like it's a formidable challenger to my pick. Just got a couple more final comments in the chat. UTT Rob says, where is Graham? Asking if that is a mean or a median average, talking about our average scores being very equal. And I think, Rob is more of a mathematician than I, but I think that the way we work out is mean. It's where you add all the numbers together, then divide them by the amount of numbers that there are. That's mean. I think median is the more popular pick. And then there's another one called mode, which I think is the exact center point of the two extreme numbers. So, yeah, it's mean. Anya, my 77-year-old great-grandparents, who are the most innocent people, watch wrestling, and I have never heard such rage. I quote from my grandma, smack his head, kick his balls. What a way to end the show.
Brilliant stuff. Okay, fantastic. Okay, then. So, quickly, one last quick recap. Your options for next week are the it would have been WWE by that stage, wouldn't it, Mags? Is that right?
Yes, WWE.
Yep. WWE title match between Eddie Guerrero and Kurt Angle at WrestleMania 20. Two of possibly the best wrestlers of all time facing off for the WWE Championship, again on the biggest show of the year, and it is an absolute barnstormer of a match. Or we have Clash of the Champions 23. Stone Cold, Stunning Steve Austin and Flying Brian Pillman as the Hollywood Blondes facing the Four Horsemen duo of Ric Flair and Arn Anderson for the NWA and WCW World Tag Team titles in a 2 out of 3 falls match. Absolutely brilliant hidden gem that contest is as well. Two great choices. Please jump on our Twitter and vote when the poll is up. Keep an eye on our social media for that. That is at @chain_wrestling. Magsy, do you want to let everyone know whereabouts they can find you and the Radio Techers content and all the other great good stuff?
Okay, so firstly, thank you for everybody in the chat. You have made this show a massive, massive success. Being perfectly honest, I know that Simon was incredibly nervous doing this.
I was absolutely bricking
how quickly he really got into it. It's been absolutely brilliant, and you guys in the chat have been a massive, massive part of that. So we thank you for sticking around and hope you continue to do so. And if you haven't already subbed, please give this channel a sub. Give this video a like. It helps us get more viewers and it helps us with the algorithm, so it really would be appreciated. You can follow me down here on the Twitters at PodfatherMags. You can follow Radio Techers at Radio Techers. And like I mentioned earlier in the show, definitely keep your eyes peeled and your ears open, because there's plenty more content coming to the Radio Techers brand in the next few weeks. We're hoping to do some big things on this channel, and this is just the beginning.
Exciting times, Magsy. Exciting times. I cannot wait. You can find me at SJP Words on Twitter, which was somewhere around there, just there. There it is. There. It's so difficult to do, isn't it? Your arm goes the wrong way. It's quite tricky. You can find me at SJP Words on Twitter. That's it. You can find the show on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at @chain_wrestling. Make sure you are looking out on our social medias for all the topics we cover, dates and times of our live shows going forward. I want to second what Magsy has said there on 2 points. One, yes, I was nervous as hell. I was absolutely bricking it. You would not believe it, how terrified I was of doing this. And secondly, thank you so much to everybody who has took the time out to watch live, anyone who listens to the show on an audio recording, anyone who watches the show back in a future date in the video format, anyone who interacts with us online, votes in the poll, retweets our stuff. We say it time and time again, but I want to say it especially now that you can actually see our ugly mugs. Me and Magsy may put the show out, record it, and talk the wrestling, but Chain Wrestling is your show. Without you, this wouldn't exist. It really wouldn't. Yes. Nobody wants to listen to me and this idiot chat for an hour and a half. Without you, this wouldn't exist. Okay?
No, but you're right.
Yeah, it is definitely. So I cannot express my gratitude enough. One last time, at @chain_wrestling on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Magsy, I'm off now to track down the lead singer from Puddle of Mud and try and get my money back from around 6 years ago. I'll speak to you next week, my friend.
See you later. Bye-bye.
With a tear in my